Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We got a full house today and some international whiskey. So welcome. How's everyone doing?
Hi.
Awesome, man. Happy
Good.
Earth Day, everybody.
Happy Earth Day.
The Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. What are you guys doing for Earth Day to celebrate?
Well, I'm drinking 3 awesome whiskeys to kick it off, and then I might go out and pick up a few pieces of trash around the neighborhood. I mean, there's plenty to choose from in Brooklyn, so I'll pick up something. I promise. I won't leave anything for sure. I won't leave anything behind. No littering.
But
yeah.
Well,
Planting a tree. Okay.
Hope they sprout eventually.
I deal with a lot of concrete in my neck of the woods, so that's a little difficult. I might be arrested for planting a tree on somebody else's property, but yeah. Well, Jenna, what are you doing out in LA for this lovely day?
I'm gonna do my best to not drive today. I know that makes a pretty big impact, especially here in LA. We're so congested, and so I'm just gonna, if I have anywhere to go, I'm gonna use my 2 legs and walk there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, welcome to the channel. It is, in fact, Earth Day. We are celebrating, evidently, by either not driving or picking up some trash in Brooklyn, or a little bit of all the above. But more importantly, today, being Earth Day, we've decided to pull out 3 very special single cask whiskeys, tying really not just about the Earth, but in our celebratory ways, focusing on whiskeys from around the Earth. Various different distilleries. Much of the Scotch Wine Whisky Society, what we're releasing to our members is Scotch whiskey that is produced in Scotland. In more recent years, we've even sort of ramped up our efforts to expand our horizons further and explore whiskeys from all over the world. And I think the reception from members has been pretty phenomenal so far. So in response to sort of the growing demand of whiskey around the world, we got 3 totally new, totally unique casks that are just coming out actually in less than an hour now. This is the 11th hour just before the 1 p.m. Eastern release of these casks. So this is going to be a nice little unveiling and sort of midday tasting, or if you're on the West Coast, early morning breakfast. So
breakfast of champions.
Yes, yes. It's going to be a fun day.
Well, quick shout out from, it looks like we do have some members in the chat just spanning the country. Karen's here. Hi from DC. Hello, Karen. Jose's here from Denver. Christine's in the house from Central Oregon. Jacob, hello from Tennessee. In Columbus, Ohio. Wow, no one person is from the same place. No 2 people are from the same place. We have U.S. representation here. We're about to go into world whiskey, and so I'm feeling pretty stoked. I hope you guys are as well. Comment in the chat just to start off. Any good society whiskeys you've had recently from recent outturns. I know there's been a lot, and we've tasted a few on the channel here. But anything you've been enjoying lately, leave us a comment in the chat. Let's hear from you. Otherwise, Tom, tell us. So we got 3 whiskeys today, but give us a little sort of sneak peek at what we're going to be tasting, because I know we've just sort of poured these the first time, and we're really excited to revisit.
Yeah, sure. So every so often we release some whiskeys from outside of Scotland, some single malts. We also release some American whiskeys and other sorts of broader whiskey categories from time to time. I think the last time we did a release like this was maybe September of last year, before the gathering, where we went essentially beyond the borders. Today, we're not going too far beyond the borders of Scotland. A couple of neighbors to the south and one to the north. So for our tasting today, we're going to start in Sweden, a few hours north of Stockholm by car, and nice and chilly up there. And we're going to see what they're doing. This is going to be this is the first cask for the U.S., but the second cask for the society at large. So there was no 0.1 that came over to us. I believe the local neighbors in Denmark may have gotten all of that. But we have the 0.2, so second cask from this distillery, first for our U.S. members. So we're going to kick it off with that. Then we're going to head down to England, to the English countryside, and check out the inaugural cask of distillery number 146. 146 is a second distillery from England, along with 137 that we're featuring among the society bottlings. The barrel protocols are are different, not that far off. So we're going to see, I think, some nice kind of malt variation with these two. And then we go to Scotland's crazy neighbors in Wales for a pretty wild expression. I'm looking forward to tasting this guy again. This is distillery number 128. It is not unfamiliar to a lot of our members. This is the 12th cask that we're releasing from them. So we've released quite a few already. All of them are very different from one another. And this one today, I think, is no different in that regard. So some really interesting, cool single malts that we're gonna get into, and hopefully you guys are really impressed by them. I certainly am so far. So I get to revisit today. And international whiskeys, whether it's international single malt outside of Scotland or other types of whiskey, bourbon, rye, they make up a very small percentage of what we do. Obviously, the heart of the society is always going to be in single malt Scotch. But I think it's really fun to explore these other regions from time to time and see what's going on. So, how's that for an introduction, Ben? Is that all right?
That was a classic Tom Smith introduction and then some. I love it.
Nice.
And just jump in the chat real quick. Some comments, kind of responses to the question of which society whiskeys have you been enjoying lately? Really kind of a diverse sort of I think suggestions here. Jose says I've been enjoying 123.30 with a bit of water. More love here from Mo from the Tar Pit. The Tar Pit release seems to be sort of a recent fan favorite. Eugene says 24.142, just a touch of water, and it's about the friendliest drum I've ever had. If you're into friendly drums, that's I'm down with that. Jacob Hill says 53.54, tentillated by 10 tickles. I just love that name.
Say that 10 times fast.
I'm not going to, but yeah, absolutely. Coming from Les Bishop says, I love this one too, 85.32. Granny's behaving badly and madly. If you guys are new to the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society,
that's awesome.
First time checking our streams, our whiskeys do have quite catchy names. Those are all names that are given by our tasting panel when they're.
That's a classic. That's like maybe two or three iterations of our label ago. So that's pretty wild.
True. Barry says 66.184 smoked seaweed smoothie is delicious. So I think we got some interesting names on this one, but most importantly, I think the liquid itself is what we really get into. I guess right now, I'm ready to go. Again, these whiskeys will be dropping at 1 p.m. Eastern, so less than an hour from now. And this is the 11th hour and a great time of day to do a little whiskey tasting. So.
Okay, we ready to rock here?
Do it.
Mr. Smith, where are we starting?
All right, so we are starting with cask number. All right, Jenna, I've been practicing my bottle holding. Number 140, cask 144.2, walked off to look for America. I don't know why. Simon and Garfunkel comes to mind when I read this label, when I read this title. Some sort of soft, sultry sounds. This is a 7-year-old Swedish whiskey, aged all 7 years in a charred new American oak barrel. That's rocking a 62.3% ABV, and this is our juicy oak and vanilla flavor profile. So let's get into this. These guys have been around since 2010, and they produce a lot of different whiskeys. One of the sort of series they have is called the Origin series, and within that, one particular expression called Alv is likely closest to this. This is probably a cask that came out of that section of their production. So all new American oak here.
Really shows in the color, just this very deep amber sort of.
The color on all these things is really fantastic.
Really pretty. There's like a waxy to this that I'm really, really liking. But it's not like a 26 kind of wax. It's more of like a beeswax kind of wax I'm getting on this.
It's
extremely aromatic. Lots and lots of spices there.
Yeah.
Beautiful vanilla sweetness. What are you getting there, Zach?
I'm with you. I mean, I'm mixing kind of that beeswax and vanilla in the middle, going to like more of like an orange marmalade kind of thing.
Ooh.
But yeah, I mean, you hit up so aromatic. It's just exploding. Oh.
It's such a bold aroma. This is packing a punch. This is not anything that I would describe as gentle. It's like a really approachable aroma. It's pleasant, but it's such. I mean, again, 62.3% right here. You get a bit of the char. I don't think it's over oaky, which is great. You know, sometimes with a malt whiskey, you put in a new oak, it can get a little too oaky, but not at all. There's a really nice sort of vanilla and caramel, classic American oak notes, bit of char, but still balanced. You know.
Maybe it's because I'm doing far too many of these tastings these days, but for 62.3, for that kind of strength, I would expect a lot more, intensity on the nose, and I'm not getting a lot of that.
I would reach out to say this is like a classical, ideal when it comes to getting alcohol and flavors intertwined. I mean, it just works so beautifully together. Like the alcohol's there, but you only notice it because of all the flavors and how powerful they are.
I actually really look forward to reducing this.
Yeah, there is like
to see how this nose changes.
I was gonna say the nose for me, because I've had it in the glass for a little while, and I've been nosing it, and it's just kind of evolving, as it's been in the glass, and I'm almost getting like there is like a fruity, like jammy quality to this, like very underlying, but it's definitely there, and I feel like the longer it's in the glass, the more that's coming, to the top of the glass. So I really like that.
Shall we dive in, friends?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Slanja.
Cheers to Mother Earth.
And if anyone watching ahead knows a common toast in Sweden, please enter that as well, and we'll pick that up before we do this one. I am afraid I do not. This is a Swedish whiskey is I think just rare to find these days anyway, so it's always exciting to dive into it. But
I'm adding more.
There's maybe 11 or 12 distilleries, and possibly 2 or 3 of them that are found outside of Sweden. So not many, but
holy fruit!
Wow,
bomb.
Really big.
That's a lot of fruit.
I mean, totally just like concentrated, deep fruit flavors. On that nose, it was so subtle, but on the palate, it's explosive. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm getting like an explosion. When you open a box, like the little boxes of raisins, how potent that smell is. That's about how potent these flavors are. It just absolutely bombs your tongue.
Wow.
Delicious.
But are you getting like on the finish, like a peppery kind of like almost drying note on the finish?
Well, there's certainly some tannic presence here, and that's a bit drying for sure. I'm getting more like cinnamon type spices than like clovey type spices than I mean, I don't know, as the finish goes on, and the finish is long on this. Like it's long. It's still going. Now it's kind of switching to more of like a black pepper. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a very impressive finish, actually. For 7 years old, one might think that would be a bit shorter, but that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that finish, it just keeps going. It's still there. I mean, it's unbelievably long.
Now, the American oak is certainly, present and accounted for here. Would you guys go so far as to say it has some like bourbon-esque qualities to it?
I mean, because it's matured in the same type of oak, new charred oak, as bourbon. and the commonalities are probably derived from the cask. It's certainly a malt whiskey, as opposed to like a corn-driven mash bill like you find in a bourbon. So it has a unique sweetness, different to bourbon, but you get the familiar, friendly notes of caramel, vanilla, a bit of wood chips, a little bit of orange zest, but it's got more spice to it too. So it's probably safe to say if you enjoy bourbon, you're gonna like this particular whiskey, especially if you like high strength bourbon. Like, there's a lot there. It's a very small step outside of the comfort zone, but it is a step nonetheless for the typical bourbon drinker, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of first fill barrels, kind of young and sprightly or juicy oak and vanilla type flavor profiles, and you don't mind that added richness of cask, this is going to be a really lovely whiskey for you. So I'm adding just a little bit more. Have we all diluted?
Yeah, I just added a little bit of water.
This is getting reminiscent of like a cask strength rye that I've had in the past. Just the big, bold spices, a little bit of heat, but that's what's really hitting home. And that orange zest is I get a lot of orange zest on cask strength ryes. I don't know, a lot of others do, but
yeah, for sure. Armagnac as well.
Yeah.
But I'm actually now getting more of like the sawdust kind of like a mixture of sawdust and malt, like almost like an Ovaltine malt type thing.
I love Ovaltine.
Ovaltine is awesome. It's awesome.
I love Ovaltine.
And it's chock full of vitamins. I can't wait to feed it to my daughter by the gallon. She's gonna love me for it.
But Zach,
it's interesting that.
But it's taking on a bit. I'm getting less of the spice, the spices that I was getting neat. A little bit more of this kind of earthier vibe, for lack of a better term. Certainly malty. Certainly, Ben mentioned sawdust a moment ago. Maybe it's just kicking around in my head, but
it's definitely different. It's a different experience with water, as most whiskeys are. But this one, I think, particularly, we're talking about a 7-year-old whiskey that is okay. It ages a number, but in the sense that 7 years is still a young spirit. But in new oak, it's extracted a lot of influence from the wood itself. But it doesn't give you, when you first need it, it doesn't come off as something super young. It's just a big, flavorful whiskey. It feels irrelevant. But when you add a bit of water, I think you get more of a spirit. It shows a bit more youth and vibrancy. But it does. I don't know. I guess I'm enjoying it really neat. Like, I love the intensity.
I agree.
I think the diluted palate is amazing. By the way, I don't know if you guys have taken a sip yet, but I think the diluted palate is just awesome.
I agree with Ben. Like, meat was bold and like fruit bomb, just totally like this intense, sticky, like long finish sticks to your palate. And I only added 2 little drops of water, and now I'm getting it's definitely more youthful with water for me as well. And I am getting more of like that spice, not like cabinet spice, but like that rye spice, with a little bit of water. So I think water, for me at least, changed this like dramatically.
I added a lot of water because 62, and I wanted to get rid of that prickle on the nose. So I added quite a bit, compared to what I had left in my glass, because it was delicious neat. But that it has the same length for sure. It just keeps going and going and going on the diluted palate. But I got so much more of the fruit, like the bright, like fruit character coming through, along with all those lovely spices. And a creaminess up front that might sound crazy, but it was almost like this was just at the entry, almost like an aged Manchego or something like that. Pretty wacky, but that's just me, I guess.
It's cool.
Very cool whiskey. Yeah.
We're
so hopefully, these guys do some peated whiskey as well. Maybe we'll get one of those at some point. But yeah, they also do some interesting maturations, not only in American oak, but in Hungarian and Swedish oak as well. So that's could be interesting, could be funky, and maybe a miss for some people. I'm not sure. I haven't had I've had wine from Slovenian oak, from Hungarian oak, which typically imparts very little into the product. But I can't say I've had much whiskey aged in that kind of wood. But we'll see. We'll see what our friends in the UK can scrounge up for us moving forward. But that is a delicious 7-year-old whiskey.
Yeah, well done, Tom. Great start overall, I would say.
Definitely a nice. I mean, for the age statement, I think it performs well beyond that, personally. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We got 3 today. We got 1 down. Just a reminder to everybody, all of these casks will drop in just less than 40 minutes, 1 p.m. Eastern time at smwsa.com. Is when we'll be released to members in the U.S. So we got 1 good start, I think, overall. First one being from Sweden, and I think unique to anything we've really had before. Let's see where we're going from here. Tom, what's next on the lineup?
So now we are traveling down to the English countryside for cask. Oh, here I go. I get 1 dram in me, and my camera skills have failed me. Maybe you can see that.
Let me help you out here.
This is cask 46.1 Orangadram, 146.1. So this is a 4-year-old whiskey, so pretty young. Aged all 4 years in a first fill shave toasted recharred barrique. We have released what we call STR casks before. Those are very popular out of Taiwan. With Distillery 139 for sure, and other distilleries certainly use them. Dr. Jim Swan helped this distillery get off the ground, and that was one of a few different methodologies that he helped them with, and to help them understand what an STR cask can do for younger whiskey. It can certainly help with that development over a shorter term. So these guys, much like a lot of newer distilleries, they opened their doors in 2014, and like a lot of it's a pretty similar story, I think, with some of these newer distilleries that pop up. They start off with crafting clear spirits, and while their whiskey is aging, they're kind of using sales from the clear spirits to pay the bank, and so they started off with a gin in 2014. And then in 2016, they had their first release, 2018, their second release. And I'm pretty sure that this cask that we have was probably pulled from that second release, because they used all STR casks on that. So while they released a non-age statement, we don't really care so much about that. We are very happy to release a 4-year-old whiskey because it's awesome. That's really the only reason we need. So while it is youthful, it has this lovely cask, and these guys also create a very fruit-forward style, fruit-forward style make from their fermentation specifically. It's a very, very long fermentation. And creating a lot of esters and a really nice fruit-forward richness. Oh, beautiful, spicy honey.
It's in your face. It's a big aroma. The first one was big, but this is now a bit wilder. Dare I say more aggressive, but it grabs your attention. It's not something you can sort of just.
What's the ABV? So this
smell.
is 62.4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these are not shy whiskeys.
When you said that spice, I get that spiced honey too. Like I want to pour this over brie and eat it.
Yes.
Pour it over.
That sounds good.
There's like a walnutty almost quality to this on the nose that is really unique. I don't get that in whiskeys, so that's a treat to find.
I'm gonna take Tom's Manchego from last whiskey and put some honey on that. This just the fruitiness and the sweetness of it feels like it would really cut that the crunchiness that you get from the Manchego when it's a lot older. Oh man, this is
anyway you win. We're pouring spicy honey on any kind of cheese. I think we're gonna win. I mean, I'm getting that honey. I'm getting earthy, kind of grassy, almost notes as well. There's a lot of dimension to this.
There's fruit in there.
Oh yeah.
I think where the first one was sort of big, vanilla, creamy, sort of a baked goods type of a profile. This is a bit more. I get the earthiness. It's a bit wild. There's some wildflowers, a bit like lavender. You definitely feel like you are outdoors a bit more when you're just nosing this one.
Yeah.
We're stuck in fish bowls, and obviously none of us are really there. But
yeah. Well, I mean, at some point I am going to go outside and pick up some trash, so I'll just breathe deep and slug a shot of whiskey on the street.
I will recycle this whiskey by consuming all of it, and then eventually
there you go.
letting it go one form or another. But no, I mean,
wow,
this is fun. This definitely
that's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, the nuttiness is there, and the nuttiness is there. So, I mean, that's a nose that has a lot to offer on several different layers, and you can probably just keep going back to this and get more.
Definitely a good conversation whiskey. You can dig into this. Cheers.
It's like a really thick, really thick, really heavy in both flavor and texture. Sort of follows through from the aroma. It's similar, for me at least, similar flavors as you sort of as indicated by just the nose. Really wild, really out there, but like oddly pleasant for such a strong.
Oh yeah,
spirit.
Oh my! This is WTF whiskey. Like, what is that?
I feel like I'm like doing on an orange rind. It's just so strong and full of flavor.
Zach, I think you've been in Orlando too long, man. You got orange.
I got oranges everywhere.
Now you can certainly get that.
Oh.
I mean, Tom, presuming the ST, this shaved toasted recharred cask was in fact a wine cask at some point, right? Is that safe to assume that most STR casks?
I believe so. Yeah.
Wine casks, because you do get sort of that fermented grape. It's just like a very subtle layer on the back end. Not, I think, obvious unless you knew what it was, but now kind of looking for that, there's a bit of it there. And I think that's nice. That little fermented grape, it's like a little bit tannic. I think that it adds a nice sort of layer to the overall sort of wild flavor profile.
This is big. Like this is just big. Like big texture, big spice, a lot of heat on the neat palate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a little touch of the youth comes through at the entry on my first sip, but then I go back to it on a second sip, and sometimes you just kind of get that kind of young oak character that hasn't quite integrated yet. I get that. I got that on the first sip, but the second one, that's gone, and now it's just kind of bull rushing my palate with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
A lot of that fruit is there. A lot of the barrel spice. It's oaky. It's intense. I mean, this is full throttle. I mean, for people looking for a quiet, elegant sipper, this is not it. Like,
no,
this, like, you want to like flip a table after you drink one of these. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so we're used to breaking tables, but in this case, I'll flip one.
Just jumping off the second story balcony, landing on it.
There you go. That's a typical tailgate for us in Western New York. Yeah.
Yeah, just the texture on this. I mean, it is It is
It's everywhere. It's sticking to my palate, my cheeks. The tannic structure is just, it's everywhere.
I think a little bit of water makes it a bit more familiar. It's got sort of a dusty, warehouse floor element to it, a bit more oaky, a bit more rustic. I think a little bit of water, really in a good way.
I think back to 133.1. Do you remember that? We released that a few years ago. It was a 3-year-old whiskey, and I blind tasted it. I blind tasted it in Denver, and like most of the people thought it was an 18-year-old whiskey, 15 to 18 years old or whatever. And when I revealed that it was a 3-year-old whiskey, they lost their minds. And that was aged in a sherry cask, but I'm getting the same kind of vibe from this one. It's just so well beyond the 4 years. Wow, it's really good.
Yeah, I think the evolution with this one with a little bit of water is also substantial. I mean, I think I was pretty open with that. The first one I thought was better neat. This one really, I think, becomes otherworldly with a little bit of water. Yeah. Really evolves quite nicely.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, it's pretty, and it's floral. And almost kind of like fresh, like, I don't know, like moss near a body of water or something.
I finished mine. It was that good.
Finished the whole sample?
This one, yeah.
No,
Jenna's
not
having breakfast.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'll send you more if I need to.
Yeah, feel free to, but no.
Oh man,
that's a trip.
Jenna, how did you feel about how did it go with water for you? Relative to
So for water, I think it definitely was a little more tame than it is neat. I think, I don't know which I prefer. I think this is one of those whiskeys that for days that you want something like table flipping full throttle, you can have this neat, but days that you want something, a little softer, but still like really fun and full of just like gooey depth, then you can add a little bit of water to this. So this is like one of those very versatile whiskeys that I think you can enjoy, for many different occasions. So I really like that. That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, undiluted, I'd probably have it with like a ribeye, but diluted now, I would likely have it with a dessert, with some kind of like creme brulee or something.
Yeah,
it got really silky.
I was gonna say, without the water neat, it explodes and it's all over your mouth. But with the water, it kind of more or less like just flows right over your tongue and hits your palate, but it doesn't really stick everywhere. It's just
lovely. So just if I may, Ben, I don't usually look at the chat too much because I'm too busy trying to hold a bottle correctly. But William Struyewski, I hope I pronounced your name right. Go Bills. That's it. And then Brent's asking, is there anything from India today? Brent, there's not anything from India today. We were hoping to have a 4th cask, but we had a little logistics hiccup with that. So you will see that later in the year. So fear not, there will be more India coming down the pipeline in the near future.
that was
what a whiskey. Just an experience. I know I get it would be good with the ribeye and all that. I think I just have it with a glass, to be honest. I mean, there's just so much going on that
that's delicious.
I wouldn't want to interrupt just the whole the orchestral experience. So
shall we?
All right, so let's move on, guys. Just a reminder, we're about 25 minutes away from the official release of these whiskeys. We've got one more to go. We've done 2. And so number 3, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so our third one is also a spicy and sweet whiskey. This is from Wales, cask 128.12. Where dwell the brave at heart? 7 years. It spent all 7 years in a first fill ruby port cask. Yummy. That Barrique wine or the Barrique, Joseph, on the last one is wine. To answer your question, and this 128.12, this is a 7-year-old from Wales, 61.3%, so a bit gentler than the others, and full term in this Ruby Port Barrique. So you have already a pretty wild distillate from their Faraday still. Also very fruit forward, and you're aging it full term in this Ruby Port Barrique. So Ruby Port, you have Ruby Port, you have Tawny Port. Ruby is typically younger, more fruit forward, very rich red fruit character, whereas Tawny Port dotes more on secondary character, kind of earthy, herbal, spicy, along with more raisinated fruit, I guess is a good way to put it, like more dried fruit than the ripe fresh fruit of a Ruby Port rather. So these fresh red berries should come through, possibly some jamminess. I don't know, we'll figure it out, but the color is absolutely majestic. It's somewhere between, like, I don't know, a really dank barrel-aged rosé and like a lighter bodied Madeira wine. Looks fantastic.
It does. And then like the right light hue. Really beautiful.
I just can't get that amazing adjective you just used, Tom, which is racinated fruits.
Whoa.
These fruits are raisinated. I just can't get past that adjective. I love that. These fruits are raisinated.
Yeah. Raisinated? Yeah. I don't know.
That's spot on. That's spot on. I think that's like so present on the aroma, you know.
And Tom, for this particular still that they use, it's basically
wild.
Wash to new make in the same still.
They can, yes, they can. I have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure that they are employing that Faraday still, but they're also doing they are using regular pot stills now as well. So it's a mix of the two. Yeah. Right. So first run going through the Faraday, second run going through a more typical pot still, pot spirit still. But they can, they are not bound by any laws, so they can do whatever the hell they want out there. So, it makes for a really fun exploration of malt styles. It is 100% malted barley, but oftentimes that's where the similarities end.
This fresh fruit is just so present.
Well, I theorize that you might get more fresh fruit. I'm getting some pretty kind of almost like stewed fruit. If you were to take a bunch of like strawberries and raspberries and cranberries and kind of just, reduce them down in a pot for a while. That's kind of what I'm getting on the nose personally, but of course, to each their own.
I'm getting like that jammy. I'm getting more of those stewed fruits too, but like stirring a big pot of stewed fruits on like a freshly polished wooden table. I'm getting like some furniture polishy notes in there. Just kind of, that's wild. Ooh.
Lots of kind of a lot of cherry character. Just fresh cherries right off the Michigan tree.
Yeah, whereas the last whiskey I think was a great outdoor. Like it sort of had this profile that suggested sort of the outdoor, like kind of rolling fields and flowers, freshly picked flowers. This is like a indoor sort of furniture polish. I'm thinking of sort of wooden furniture with some sort of like velvets. You'd be sitting in a crushed velvet chair, I think, with this type of whiskey. That's kind of what I'm getting.
Nice.
It's sort of delicate, but it's also a little prickly and intense, in a good way, of course.
Wow, that's there's a lot to unpack in that nose.
Oh. But I think you're right. If we didn't know it were a port cask and you just tasted, you would definitely know. If not port, you know there's a fortified wine element to it. Because there are those heavy sweet fruits. It's fermented grapes. And
what the hell is this? This is crazy. This is a crazy whiskey. Who else has tasted this?
Whoa.
I think you're the last. Oh,
This is wild.
This reminds me of like a gentleman's study that's brand new. Like you haven't used it yet. The leather hasn't worn. The tables were just stained, but like it's all there. This is neat.
I need to get one of those, by the way. Okay. Is that show or is it gentleman's study? While you're at it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
like
it tastes
Luxardo, like
She
Luxardo
said.
cherries. And what's that?
it's more she shed than gentleman's study, I'll say.
Oh, so
Okay.
she shed versus a man cave. Okay. Oh wow, this is wild. I get a very pronounced kind of liqueur, like a cherry or raspberry liqueur on the entry.
Raspberry. Whoa.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Wow. Hey Tom, do you know how many bottles of each we're going to be releasing by chance?
Yeah, on the first two, 60. So those are limited to one bottle per member. And the last one here that we're tasting right now, 96 bottles. So there isn't a limit on that. I think that it's enough to go around. But wow, that is that is. I mean, you want to talk about we were talking about a conversation piece earlier.
This is it.
Get 6 whiskey geeks around a table, like shit's gonna go crazy. Like with this.
Well, we currently have 4 and about 100 others with us at the moment. So get 100 plus whiskey geeks around the table. And you know, here we are. Happy Thursday.
Whoa.
This is crazy.
What a breakfast.
Jenna, what was it you described as the contrast of the gentleman's study? What was it that you were suggesting this reminds you of?
Oh, I was just being cheeky and said it's more of a she shed than a gentleman's study.
Oh yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think it's got, maybe it's a I wouldn't call it, you know, stereotypically feminine construct, but it's not like your typical. There's like a very sort of complex musk to it, and I think that in combination with like very simple floral and sweet fruit. I think that's again, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I think that's probably mine.
Yes,
it's a great combination of the two. It's a she shed and a gentleman's study connected.
This is the best unisex whiskey of the day.
On the finish, on the
musky.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. Musky is perfect. That is a perfect descriptor. On the finish, I've always wanted to do this, and I've never actually done it. But I'm imagining that this is what's happening on the finish right now. Is if you took a bottle of cream soda and a bottle of sarsaparilla and poured them together and drank that beautiful love potion. That's what I'm getting on the finish. Like creamy, a little birchy, like this is a phenomenal, unique whiskey.
Big time.
Well, Tom, it is Earth Day, so anything goes, you know. I think you know, no better time than now.
I'm gonna do that, Ben. I'm gonna make sure it's glass, not plastic. Or maybe I'll no, I don't know.
What you can do,
they have soda and Tetra Pak. I think that's
I was gonna say Dr.
safe.
Pepper and cream soda. They have one that's already been mixed, and this is kind of like that. You don't know what the 23 flavors are in the Dr. Pepper, but trying to find them, but you taste the cream soda. That's what this is like. Oh man.
Well, anyway, I think it's safe to say probably one of the more unique whiskeys we've had in a long time.
Sure.
And being in the business of seeking out the most unique whiskeys in the world, I think that is saying a lot, you know, again, for this whiskey. And Tom, to see you sort of as perplexed as you were, of all people, you know, by whiskey, I think that says a lot, you know, too.
In an enchanting way. I mean, it's just you know, it's absolutely delicious. but you know, we taste a lot of whiskey, right? And we taste a lot of whiskey from a lot of different producers and, you know, distilleries around Scotland, beyond Scotland. But when's the last time you had a whiskey like this? That is like, you know, that is so far outside of the paradigm that you're used to when that liquid hits your palate. You know, that's what's remarkable to me. That we can continue to be surprised. You know, I mean, I think us and a lot of members, we have a lot of whiskeys and we taste a lot and we appreciate them and we, you know, you typically are like, even if you don't notice that you're doing it, you're always kind of like, you know, rating it in your head compared to other things you've had, you know, and this is tough to peg. This is really tough to peg, like to kind of put it into some sort of rubric of other whiskeys you've had. Unless, of course, you have 5 or 6 of these single casks sitting on your shelf, then I guess it might be a little easier. But it's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a pretty good lineup, guys. Like I mentioned, we were supposed to have one more today, but that has to wait a little bit longer. But fear not, you will get some Indian whiskey later in the year. Yeah. So, did you guys enjoy these?
That was so fun.
Yeah, that was good. Whoa, why does this keep popping up?
I'm happy to learn more about membership at smwsa.com.
Yeah, listen, we're about 13 minutes away from the release of these whiskeys. Just to recap, I mean, we've explored beyond Scotland today, you know, in celebration of Earth Day, of course, gone around the earth with not sure too far from Scotland sort of geographically, but Sweden, England, Wales, I think really all different experiences to have indoors, outdoors, with food, without. I mean, I think the commonality with all these is like how much they evolved. I think with water, obviously, maybe on the younger side, there's more room to really change and develop, which is just fantastic.
Wow.
So just to kind of recap, you know, again, for society members, make sure to log in your account. These will be dropping, you know, as I said, about 13 minutes time right now. If you're not yet a member, go ahead and visit smwsa.com to sign up. Our whiskey is available exclusively to members and not available in stores or anything as well. So only through our shop. You can call our member services team too, which is pretty much us. For the most part, talk to us. We're here to talk about your whiskey interests and make recommendations. These 3 are very, very different and very unique to anything we have. And I think, you know, when you're going out to explore whiskey from around the world or really beyond Scotland, I think you want something that is different. And sometimes, you know, in my experience, whiskey produced all around the world can really be similar in certain extent. Just because it's somewhere else doesn't mean it's going to be wildly different. I don't think that's what we had here today. I think we had a very different whiskey experiences across the board, which, I don't know, for got a lot of Scotch whiskey at home, it's nice to switch it up. That's the value to it, but
pear liqueur as well. I'm getting all kinds of
You're still going on this.
He's still going.
No, I'm still unpacking this bad boy. This shit is crazy, man. Like, this is wild. My whole table's shaking. Sorry.
I mean, I'm with him. I've been over here shaking my head because I keep smelling it, and it just keeps going.
I know. I was
on, man.
Class. I was like, man, there is though like a
anyway 3. Yeah, like you said, Ben. Like 3 very unique expressions. I hope we get more from the first 2. Clearly, we have a bit already from the last one, and we have a bit more coming down the pipeline. I hope we can secure more from 144 and 146, because if these 2 casks are any sort of guideposts for what's to come, you know, I mean, they're going to be releasing some really fine whiskey in the years to come. So let's see. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Well, good luck today. Got just over 10 minutes before the release. Thank you for watching. You know, we're going to be doing more and more of these streams. Hope it's helpful for you. Appreciate the feedback. Comment below, you know, or once the replay's up, you know, comment on the video and let us know what you think, what you'd like to see more of here on the channel. And hopefully this is helpful. I certainly didn't mind, you know, I'm not minding these tastings. It's a fun way to spend an hour or so. So, all right. Well,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey,
Tom, Jen, and Zach, cheers.
Hey, happy Earth Day, guys.
Yeah, happy Earth Day.
Happy
We'll
Earth
talk
Day.
to you guys
Have a
soon.
great day. Somebody do something cool for Mother Earth, or just drink whiskey, whatever. It's cool.
Hey.
Cheers.